welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin, I'm the Flutey Feminist, and each week I consult my Instagram followers to choose a video topic. Today we will be discussing comparison and why it's harmful, and most importantly, what you can do about it. We'll just jump right in. So I spent most of my life comparing myself to others, whether it be as a musician or a student, and just really in general in life. A lot of it has to do with the mindset that I used to have. I'm going to make a whole video about mindset in the future, so I won't go on about it too much right now, but I had a certain mindset that just made me insecure, and so I'd compare myself to others all the time. Of course, it's a normal thing to do in general. We all do this at some point. But despite it being normal, it can be very toxic. And the reason for this is that you are not anyone but yourself. It sounds weird to say, but it's true. We are all unique, and we all have a unique set of life experiences, identities, privileges, abilities, etc. That affect us, and that will determine why our creative output, for example, is what it is. When we compare ourselves to others, we tend to ignore those specific experiences and identities, and we focus only on the outcome we see. Let's make this tangible. So my experience is the largest with the music field, so I'm gonna kind of gear this video towards that. But of course you can extrapolate and translate everything I say to the field that you're in, whether it's a creative field or not. But mostly I know a lot about creative fields and music in particular. So I feel like with creative people, we are constantly comparing ourselves to others. A lot of it is, again, normal. We want to be aware of what other people are doing, what they're achieving. We need to know the history of our field and what was done before us and what is important maybe to see in the future. So of course we need to be aware of other people and their output, of course. But again, in part, it's going to become toxic. For example, if you're listening to a musician and you use their success or their abilities to put yourself down. So basically you engage in negative self-talk and you feel bad about yourself. It's really, really hard to avoid this, of course. If you compare your work to a peer's work, it's so easy to find fault in your work. But it's possible to stop doing this, and it's really necessary. For me, this is how I would function. So when I was in a practice room alone, when I was in a private lesson, or during a concert where I was playing, I would usually feel great. I could get to a point of feeling really confident in my playing. And then as soon as I would hear someone else play, it would all just go away. I would just immediately think that I'm a really bad player in comparison to them. So for me, it was kind of this all or nothing mindset where I was either a good flute player or a bad flute player based on the situation. So if I was in a practice room and I was really confident and like nailing a piece, I was like, yes, I am a good flute player. And then, if I went to see someone's recital and I listened and I thought they sounded really good, I would think, oh, okay, I'm a bad flute player. There's no nuance. And the other thing that's important here is that we don't consider a whole list of things. So here are the things that I wouldn't consider when I would be listening to someone. I wouldn't be thinking about how many years of experience they had. Is it more or less than me? I wouldn't consider their family life or situation or upbringing, I guess. For example, if someone grew up in a musical household, if their parents were musicians or not, if the family culture kind of cultivated a musical area of life. I don't know where that sentence went, sorry. If music was important to the family, so that the person you're listening to, did they take lessons early on or not? That sort of thing. Sorry for bug. I wouldn't consider the caliber of their instrument. Was it a super high model or not? I wouldn't consider their mindset. Maybe they have a really, really productive and efficient mindset that allows them to be super confident and progress fast. I wouldn't consider differences in body and physiology, and some people have bigger lungs, like I don't know, like there's just little things in our bodies that do make a difference in our playing, especially as a wind player. And of course, I wouldn't be thinking of issues of money and access to money and privilege, and whether someone has to work a part-time job while they're studying or not, and if they have more or less time to practice compared to me. So, I was just my mind was just going to, they're just a better player than me, right? I wasn't considering all those things, and there was just no nuance. And with that mindset, you can't win and you can't change anything. You're basically saying, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. They're just better, which is just not true, right? It's really hard to cultivate confidence when you're thinking like that. And if you're not confident, it's going to be very hard to improve, right? Going back to experience, I think, someone's level of experience is a huge factor in why they play the way they do. In general, generally speaking, the more experience you have in a field, the better you are. There are a million other things to consider, of course, and that's not necessarily always true. But if you've been playing the flute 1 year versus someone who's been playing for 10 years, there's going to be a difference, of course, right? So your teachers and older players, we can't compare ourselves to them. They just have so much more experience than us, not only in terms of, they're playing, like they're practicing and their level of playing on the instrument, but in terms of jobs and auditions and concerts they've done and given and received, etc. Their experience is just so much more vast. So, this is something that should be obvious. Like, if you've played the flute for 1 year or 5 years, that makes a difference. But, our brains don't like going there. We're very quick to just be like, no, they're just better than us. And it's just not true, right? At least, that's just not the mindset that's going to be the most useful to you. We also all learn at different rates, right? So for me, I kind of consider myself like a late bloomer to the flute for many, many reasons, one of which is my mindset, which again, I'll make a video about. And so things that I'm achieving now in my playing, people achieved like 5 years ago, if we're on the same, if we're comparing kind of the level of experience or age, that sort of thing. So, there was many reasons why I was learning the way I was learning and at the pace I was learning, and you kind of just have to accept that. You can't change your history or your background or your identities, and so what you should be focusing on are things you can control and improve on, which are your creative abilities, your experience, and of course your mindset. So how do we stop comparing ourselves to others? I suggest choosing inspiration over comparison. So that's been my journey for the last 2 years, basically, is that when I listen to other flute players specifically, I try to think along the lines of what I find inspiring and motivating about their playing, instead of, thinking about the ways in which I am like worse than them for whatever reason. So, for example, instead of saying something like, oh, I wish I could sound as polished as her, you can think more along the lines of, wow, her playing is so polished. Like, there must be ways that tools that I can use to get to her level of playing as well. Or you can think, what a beautiful musician. Like, I just want to go practice now and improve my playing, and basically kind of thinking that you're more excited to go and then play your instrument, rather than thinking like, oh my gosh, I can never play like her or him or them or anyone. For me, it's especially challenging to listen to peers that I know personally, which I'm sure is the case for a lot of people. And when I was in university, it was really, really hard for me to enjoy a lot of people's performances because of this. I thought about how beautiful their playing was, but it always led to thoughts of inadequacy on my part. And that makes me really sad, because music and live performances should be enjoyed, and especially if they're your friends or peers and people I wish that I could have just enjoyed people's performances more. So nowadays what I try and do is to force myself consciously to think of what I want to take away from their performance, rather than what to feel bad about my own playing. And of course, I still struggle. It's a daily struggle. It's not a light switch. It's not going to just go away, from one day to the next. I still struggle, and I still sometimes compare myself to others in that toxic way. But I make sure to always take active decisions in, again, finding inspiration instead of comparison. So it's really an active practice that you have to think about, and you're really rerouting your trains of thought. That being said, it's important to consider your own boundaries, right? I think we need to all get to a place where the majority of the time we can enjoy people's playing or work. And then there might be that minority of the time, or a minority of people, or certain demographics of people that you say, I can't get past this hurdle when I listen to them. I just can't do it. And that's okay. That's totally fine. Lord knows I have those people or types of people or whatever, however you want to categorize it. But of course, there's going to be a certain amount of situations where you just really, it is better to just, for example, just not listen to that person, or to remove yourself from the situation so that you don't delve into that toxic comparison. But that should be the minority of people, or the minority of the time, if you're really becoming aware of this concept and working towards that mindset of inspiration. So, you might just have to refrain from consuming someone's work, and that's fine. There's 7 billion people on the planet, it's okay. And of course, there are still going to be some really hard days where, maybe for a whole month you haven't felt really bad about yourself. You felt inspired when you listened to people, and then one day, for whatever reason, you scroll through Instagram, you being me right now, you scroll through Instagram and you just immediately feel shitty. And, that's going to happen. It happens to me. And that can be very, very hard. It can be really hard to listen to someone and who's playing so beautifully, and to feel bad about yourself. It's a really, really crappy feeling. I get it. But what helps me the most is to reflect on progress and my personal progress. So every couple months around, I go on my Instagram profile and I scroll through all my practice videos that I post, and I just listen to myself, just myself. I make sure not to listen to videos of other people during that time. And so I reflect on how I played in the past, or the progress I made in between videos or years. And so I choose to focus on what I can control, which is the work that I put in, my practicing, my how efficient it is, and what kind of quality of practice I'm doing. And I focus on my intention and the goals I want to achieve as a musician in my career. And of course, I make sure that my self-talk remains really positive and constructive. We have to believe that progress is not linear, because it's not, right? Kind of over time, of course, your progress will always go up and you'll improve over time. But when you look closely at a progress graph that I'm making up right now, the line of progress is really like squiggles. It's ups and downs all the time. And of course, in general, it's going to be going up. But we all have moments of feeling inadequate. We don't know what anyone else is thinking or feeling, right? And so you could be listening to someone play their instrument and think, oh my god, they're so good, like I wish I could play like them, I feel so bad about myself right now. And you don't know that at the same time or on a different day, that same exact person might be having the exact same thoughts towards another player or even towards you. You don't know, right? We all assume we're like the worst in our peer group, but that's not necessarily the case. And in the end, it doesn't matter what your actual level of playing is and whether you really are better or worse than anyone, because it's so subjective. It's not, a fact at all. But that doesn't matter. What matters is acknowledging that we all have these feelings. We all feel inadequate sometimes, and to remember that you're not the only one that feels this way. So, post on social media about your progresses, even if they're really small, and share your successes. So on days where you feel like you're not as good of a player as someone else, it's still important to talk about your own personal progress, basically. And of course, it's important to share our failures as well, to keep things balanced. But it is still important to be proud of yourself and to not feel like that's egotistic in any way or vain, because it's really not. Back in September, I posted an Insta story. It was just a picture of myself, and I wrote a kind of a long text on it because I had just finished scrolling through my feed, listening to my practice videos, and I felt really proud of myself. And so I thought I would share that kind of text with you here because it really touches on everything I've mentioned in this video. I think it's a really good pep talk as well for myself and hopefully for you too. I will post the picture, basically the Insta story, down below. And so I hope this helps in some way. So this is what I wrote. Reflecting on the progress I've made on the flute in the past year and how unashamedly proud I am of it and of myself and how I play. I don't need to be anyone but me. I don't need to be pahood or have the clearest sound or the fastest articulation. I can play flute well and with passion, and I'm confident, and I progress every single day, and that is truly, truly all that matters. Fellow flutists, I love you, and please, for the love of all things holy, do not beat yourself up. Listen to others for inspiration, not comparison, because you need to flourish on your own terms, trust me. You have to come to a place of peace in your playing to play your best. Your best is good enough, and it always will be. I don't know how I will fashion a living from performing, but I know I can do it. I know I love playing, and that is truly the source of all great things. Please find joy in your practice and never speak negatively to yourself. Reflect on what you need to get more proficient at and work towards it. Nothing else is needed in terms of mindset. You have to believe in yourself. You have to talk gently to yourself when you practice and in general. You are enough. Your playing is enough. You are getting better every day. So as you can hear, there are some themes that came out that I discussed already. And the main thing is that your best will always be good enough because it's your best, right? You can't do better than your best. Again, I also want to reiterate that positive self-talk can coexist with being demanding of yourself. I think it's an awesome thing to want to be great, right? I want to be a great flute player and performer. So it's not to say that you shouldn't strive for for success, and it's important to want to always get better and to be a really great player. But that doesn't mean that the best way to do that is to be hard on yourself. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I would encourage you to engage in positive self-talk and positive critiquing of yourself to progress in a faster and healthier way. But I just really wanted to address this topic because I think there's a lot of shame in the creative community in general. As I said, we all compare ourselves to each other all the time. We feel bad a lot of the time about ourselves, and we're kind of too ashamed to talk about it. We either just don't address it, or we pretend that we are more confident in ourselves than we are. So I think we should just be more transparent, and it's always helpful to talk about things to work through shame. So that's why I wanted to talk about that this week. So hopefully you feel better now. I want to thank you for watching this video. Please, please, please make sure to like and share it. And of course, leave a comment with any thoughts you have about this, any experiences you've had relating to this. And of course, if you have pieces of wisdom that you want to share with me, of course I'll never be able to consider everything there is to consider on any given topic. So I'd love to know what you think, and if you have anything you want to share, that would be awesome. And I decided that I would be sharing fun facts at the end of videos now to kind of like reward you for sticking it out and listening to me talk for a while. So this week's fun fact is that I cannot whistle. No, I can't. Everyone thinks flute players can whistle, but like, it's not the same thing, okay? It's just not. I can't whistle, but I can play the flute, believe it. Anyways, make sure to follow me on social media. The links are always in the description box below. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and make sure to subscribe to my channel, which you can do so right up there. My flute performance channel is right over here, and my latest video is right up there. Thank you so much for watching, and have a Flutey Feminist day.